Hi everyone, Catherine here from Inky Finger Cat, back with Christmas in July day 19. Holly jolly Christmas. So I've grabbed some holly based stamps, but I actually thought we'd do a one sheet wonder. I don't know why I'm challenging myself to do this today. This is probably not the good day to do it. This is my third video I have actually filmed today. So I'm feeling a little bit tired, a little bit warm, but there is method in my madness. I've got a busy week ahead and I don't think I'm going to be able to keep up with trying to get a video done every day. So it's just going to give me a little bit more of a buffer, which means I might succeed with Christmas in July this year. I've succeeded the last 2 years. I have no reason to think that I won't, but I do start to panic thinking, there's still so much of the month left. I mean, clearly, there's what, 31 days, we're on day 19. I'm not doing too badly. But yeah, I thought we'd do a one sheet wonder. So we'd create our own pattern paper today using the stamps. And then I have drawn myself out a one sheet wonder template. I'll talk about that when I do the voiceover later. And that will be available over on my blog, which is inkyfingercat.me. Or even in our Facebook group. Our Facebook group's been growing this month, which is lovely. I'll make sure that all of the details for the Facebook group are in the thing below. As of the point of filming, no one's actually joined in though. So there will be some words to our group saying, come on, where's your mates now? Do you know what? I don't blame people for not crafting in this weather. It is too warm, but there you go. So for those that don't know, I am Catherine. I am Inky Fingered Cat. And I do lots of crafting projects, and for the last 2 years and this year I am challenging myself to do a bestie project daily on a video, which is a big undertaking to do that alongside everything else that I also do. I also do scrapbooking, other kinds of card making, other kinds of crafting, bits of Bix media, blah blah blah, and share little bits of my life over here on my channel. So if you're not already subscribed, please do subscribe. There are loads of new subscribers in the last few weeks. I am delighted to welcome you all. That's lovely. And a quick reminder that if you like a video, that helps me and YouTube know that you've enjoyed it, and they'll put similar things into your feed. And other people then know that you're also enjoying that video. So if they like similar videos to you, they'll then see them, blah, blah, blah. There's a whole algorithm thing going on, which is a word I know can confidently use, but without actually really understanding what it all means. That being said, thank you for coming and watching. Let's get crafting. Okay, so I'm recording the voiceover the following day. I was so tired by the time I'd finished this, but you know, it is what it is. So we're going to start with a blank piece of A4 paper. So if you are not UK based, you might have a different size of paper, but I'm using the UK size. To be honest, if you used American size, you'd end up with maybe one of the strips might be wider and some of them might be slightly shorter, but I'm sure you could still work it out from my version. I am mounting up all of these stamps. I'm using all of the foliage type ones. I am not using the pine cones. And I'm going to do each one in a different colour. Whenever I do these kinds of projects, I start with what might be my biggest stamp first. And the important thing is to rotate stamps. Unless, in my opinion, you're doing words. If you're doing words, I like them to be straight, as in horizontal, or portrait. I don't like them on a wonk. Other people do, but I don't. So there you go. Now, this stamp set is a really forgiving stamp set and works perfectly for this kind of project because it's called Painted Christmas. So they kind of got a watercolour look to them. So they're a bit wishy-washy. They're not perfect images, as in not dead bold. They've got like gaps in them and all the rest of it. So if you slightly misstamp, it doesn't matter. Absolutely doesn't matter. You'll see here that I am twisting the stamp as I'm stamping it down. I'm overlapping images, because I want a really busy piece of paper at the end. You could go for something less busy than this. You don't have to go completely mad like I have, but you could go for something less busy. But I went busy. Now, this is where I'm slightly veering away from normal. I have pulled in a few different colours. So I've pulled in, this is more mustard, and this one is called, I think it's called Hello Honey. It's either Hello Honey or Wild Honey. I think it's Hello Honey. I did pull in that. The greens I chose Tranquil Tide, Mossy Meadow, Bermuda Bay and Lost Lagoon. So some slightly bluer toned and turquoisey tones in there. And then I ended up with the strawberry slush. I went for a slightly pinkier colour rather than a red colour, if that makes sense. It probably still looks quite red, but it was more pink than red. But quite a bright, dark pink, to the point where you might say it's red. You know, that kind of thing. And so I start with my biggest stamps and then work my way down to my smaller stamps, overlapping, filling gaps, all the rest of it until I've got this ridiculously over-the-top pattern paper. Now, this is where the template comes in. I am, at this point, sort of measuring to see what template I'd used, but I'm then turning it into inches because the grid paper I'd drawn on was centimetres. I don't think it was exactly the same size as an A4. It's almost. So in a bit, I will pop up on the screen, but to be honest, you're probably better going over to my blog, which is inkyfingercat.me, in order to get a screen grab of this. Also might put it in the Facebook group. In fact, probably will put it in the Facebook group. But yeah, so I do end up writing on my little template off screen what the actual sizes are. So there you go. I have now written all on the template what the sizes are. I had already decided which pieces were going to go with it, which pieces. So I'd written card 1, card 2, blah, 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 all of that kind of stuff. And so I'm just popping those all together and I'm going to make 6 cards in total. So I decided best way to do 6 cards in total and make them all slightly different was to just ink the edges to the panels, which gives them some separation so I don't need to think about matte layers, but using the same, like using a different colour ink for each of the cards. So I used the Hello Honey. I am having problems with the name of that ink, aren't I? Hello Honey for the one that's got the largest panel. Okay. And then I have cut myself a card base and I'm just checking, is that all right? Yeah, it's fine. And then I'm going to do the same for all of the others. So I'm going to choose a different colour. This one I'm going to guess is Tranquil Tide. I don't know. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. Next one is going to be the Lost Lagoon. This might be Tranquil Tide. Might be Bermuda Bay. Don't know. But yeah, I choose a different one for each of them just so it just slightly changes up. There you go. That's definitely Tranquil Tide. That's definitely Mossy Meadow. So I think the first 2 will have been, one of them will have been Bermuda Bay and one of them will be Lost Lagoon, I think. Pretty confident it's that way around. And then the final one is just using that strawberry slush and I'm just giving it a light edge. It looks a bit odd, the pink one. I think it still looks pretty. I don't dislike it, it just looks a bit odd. Okay, I think that's it with the inking. But at this point, I've decided, I need to make all the rest of my card bases and I'm still thinking about how am I actually going to finish these cards. I find them quite easy to finish, I must admit, because it's just about layering your elements and adding in dimension. So I don't find it a particularly difficult thing to do. But I'm thinking about embellishments or that kind of thing. So I take another piece of cardstock and this time I'm just going to stamp the holly leaves. After all, this theme is Holly Jolly Christmas. And I'm going to stamp that 6 times. There are dies that goes with this set, but I tend to fussy cut when I'm doing this kind of thing because I just find lining up the stamped image and the die a pain in the bum. If I'd have thought about it in advance, I would have created myself a little template, stamped into the template, etc. And as you can see, at this point, I am not thinking straight at all. I'm doing something very random with my sentiments here, and I am tired at this point, so nothing is quite going to plan, but I get there eventually. Because I'm going to stamp my sentiments. Again, I'm just going to fussy cut these. Well, I'm going to use my trimmer to cut these. So I just wanted to be able to stamp them all down. I stamped more than I needed because I knew some of them weren't going to get used, or might not stamp perfectly, or were too close to the edge or whatever. Now, the good news is I'm not going to make you watch me cut them all out. I think I do make you watch me cut all of the sentiments. Maybe I do. But I'm not going to make you watch me fussy cut every single holly leaf. I instead turn the camera off. Mainly to give the camera a little bit of a rest. I will admit it has been so warm in the craft room and it's done so many videos that it is overheating my phone a little bit. So yeah, I did have to keep stopping anyway to make sure that my phone wasn't about to explode. I don't know if anybody else has that issue, but yeah, mine just sometimes decides that if it's doing too much work, it's going to have an overheat. Do you know what? Don't blame it. I feel exactly the same. Yeah, apparently I did make you watch me cut out all of the sentiments. All I do when I'm doing strip sentiments is I try to line it up with a line by eye on the trimmer. I don't do anything special. I try to keep it as close to the edge as I can without being silly. So that there's a little whiteboard around, but not much. And then that is all those scraps going into the bin. I did have a bit of a scraps day yesterday. I sorted out a load of scraps later on in the day. I think I was inspired by yesterday's video to then actually sort my scraps out, because they were a bit insane if you watched yesterday's video, which was all about using up scraps. Okay. What I have done there is I have cut 4 panels of the white cardstock that I've made the card blanks out of that are about 1 centimetre smaller than the card blank, and I'm going to emboss them. Now, I disappeared off camera for quite some time because I want to go and choose my embossing folders. And then I had to decide which embossing machine, which die cutting machine I was going to use. And then I have to work out, because I use a different one for each of them, I have to work out which sandwich I'm using on my spellbinders. Yeah, and that's because the first one that I had just doesn't fit in the grand marquees. Otherwise, they'd have all gone through my grand marquees. Now, this one I've really struggled with. This is a very thick 3D embossing folder. Why can they all not just make them all the same size? That's what I want to know. This probably would have fit perfectly in the grand marquees, but never mind. By this point, this was the machine that was on the table in front of me. So this is the one I'm using. But yeah, I've got a mixture of different embossing folders from different suppliers. Some of them are ancient. Like this one is one of my favourite embossing folders of all time, with the Merry Christmas words on. I just love it. It's really old, and I don't even really remember where I got it from. I want to say it came from a craft shop that was just down the road, but I could be wrong. Anyway, time to now stick them all together. So I decided on reasonably flat cards with a little bit of lift. So I stuck my embossed panel down. Then I stuck my 2 pieces of my one sheet wonder down flat, added the holly leaves flat, but then raised up the last panel, and then the sentiment that goes across the panel. I did ink up the edges, I think, of all of them, maybe not all of them. Maybe most of them. I did ink up the edges of the sentiment. This one, I just felt like it needed a little bit of colour to the background panel. So very light touch with my blending tool that I did not re-ink. And then this one, I decided to wrap some wax thread round. And I use this on a few of the cards, actually, the wax thread, to create a bow and a little bit of a textural element. And this one, I did decide, right, I am going to stick that panel up on foam adhesive. So this one's got a little bit more lift because that whole panel is stuck up. And then I did, because it's so hot and I'm finding that adhesive's just drying so quickly, I did on this case put little dots of glue on that. I don't always, you don't need to usually, but it's I might have told you already, it's a bit warm. It's a bit warm at the moment. So yeah, I did then add a little bit more foam adhesive for that one, just because it was going over that ribbon that had been wrapped. And then I added in the 2 little holly leaves. This one, again, kept it fairly simple, fairly flat. Didn't add any inking to the background because it's quite a large panel that was going over the top of it. And this one I inked up slightly differently. The others I've been kind of just dipping into the ink pads, but that one I decided to just ink up with my blending tool, keep it a little bit softer. And then added that one on all flat, apart from the little sentiment. And the sentiment's going to go across. And then I'm just deciding, do I want to add in my little holly leaves? And I decided, nope, I'm going to add a bow instead. So sometimes when I'm doing these sorts of cards, if you've got all your supplies there, it's easy to just pick and grab. I know I often talk about decision making and reducing your decision making, but sometimes it's just what happens, isn't it? Sometimes you just want a bit of choice. Does anybody else get like that with their foam adhesives, that you don't want all of the waste backing kind of hanging off? Why was it important to me at that point that I needed to, to cut the edges off? Okay, another one, flat. This time, because it was kind of like I tried to, when I embossed it, it's kind of like a pattern you want to, I wanted it to be symmetrical. So this time I added it so it was a straight panel down the middle. I don't often do that. It's quite often I go off to one side. I just find that pleasing. In this case, I then added on the holly leaves. And this time the sentiment is again just being raised up. And you might think I'm very overly generous when it comes to these foam adhesive bits, but the reality is I've got loads and loads of them. The Kingston Crafts Mega Adhesive Kit was so generous in terms of how many foam adhesives there are, so I've got them for probably another year or so's worth of use, even using them as heavy-handedly as I do. But I don't like them to sag when they're, if I want something with dimension, I want it to stay with dimension. Okay, this one I did not have an embossed panel, and I was not going out and getting another embossing folder and another, trying to work out the, the sandwiches. So instead I took a stencil. Now I got 2 stencils out, ended up not using the one that you can see on the screen. I used the snowflake one instead of that dot one from Tim Holtz. This time, again, I am adding in the wax thread as my kind of embellishment. I wrapped it and then I also tied an extra bow on it. So it's quite a lot of bow on that one. And I decided, I think, not to add any holly leaves. And instead, I am just adding my sentiment, again, with my foam adhesive. And you'll see sometimes when I do the foam adhesive like that, when it's to go over an element like the ribbon or the twine in this case, I do leave a gap so that it's not going against it. And then this final one obviously doesn't need a backing panel because it is the full panel. And I just went a bit mad, used all of those holly leaves that were left. I stuck them to the back of the panel, and then I'm going to raise this panel up. I do wish I'd gone in with a slightly, like maybe a brown or something, a darker brown to the edge of that panel. I just don't think it stands out as well as it should do, that it's a separate panel, or maybe even actually backed it with a white or something. And this is where I added in that final holly leaf just underneath the sentiment, so it's just got a little bit of lift from the others. And that is all 6 cards. And then you're going to go, but Catherine, you've not done anything to the insides of the cards. And you're right, I had not done anything to the insides of the cards. I realised that when I went and stuck that last final sentiment. So I took my leaves, my holly leaves, that are already on a stamp block, all ready to go. And I just added those in on every single card. Just a little stamped element. And then I took the berries and did the same with them. So there is an element of the outside that comes to the inside, and it's just one set of holly leaves, and then one of the cards has also got an extra sentiment just because I've got a sentiment left over. And that is my 6 cards done. Now, it took me probably about an hour and a half, but I don't think an hour and a half to do 6 cards is too bad. And that included fussy cutting. Remember, I did the fussy cutting of the holly leaves off camera. It included making the paper, cleaning up, and then probably not photographing them. I did that later. But yeah, so I really like these. I love this technique. Now, you could absolutely use the one sheet wonder with a piece of normal pattern paper. You don't have to create your own. But I think it's good fun to make your own. Then you can choose your own colour schemes, like I did, and add weird things in, like the Hello Honey or the Strawberry Slush. Not colours you would normally think of for Christmas. So I'm wondering if you like this. Is this your kind of thing? Is this your kind of jam? I think it's my kind of jam. I also love being able to make lots of cards in one go. This would be a perfect gift bundle. So I tend to make a set of Christmas cards or a set of cards for each of my aunties every Christmas, and that's one of their gifts. This would be a perfect one for that. Might even put it aside as one of those. I don't know. Maybe I won't. I like them too much. I want to send them. Right, that's it for me today. There'll be a few more photos to come, but I hope you've enjoyed that video. It's a longer one today because there were more cards and a few things that I wanted to tell you about. Please do subscribe if you want to see more videos. Obviously, we've got the rest of the month to go for the Christmas in July, but there will be plenty more things to come after that. Hit the notification bell, give me a thumbs up, leave me a comment. Loads you could comment on that one. Until next time, bye bye.